Agency nurses are lazy and they get paid to do the same exact work. These are two statements that most agency nurses have heard before, and that's simply because people do not have a proper understanding of the risks that come with being an agency or travel nurse. A lot of people like the stability of being a staff nurse. A lot of people like the flexibility and the extra income that they get to make by being an agency nurse. This is why a lot of people are leaving staff for agency. But there are a few things that you need to know before you make that decision, because it is much better to be well prepared and well informed than end up shocked, unhappy, or even putting yourself in a dangerous situation once you do become a travel nurse. What is up, you guys? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Kira Selena, and on this channel we talk about nursing, beauty, lifestyle, and content creation. As mentioned in the title, today we are going to be talking all about the risks that come with being an agency nurse, just so that the aspiring agency nurses have a better understanding of what they would be getting themselves into, and so that the staff nurses who think that agency nurses don't do anything or get paid to do the same work have a better understanding of why agency nurses are paid so much more. If you're a returning viewer, go ahead and smash that like button down below. And if you're a staff nurse thinking about going agency or already an agency nurse, go ahead and let me know down below why you want to become an agency nurse or what your experience as an agency nurse has been like so far. I don't want to waste your time, so let's just go ahead and get straight into the video. So the first thing that you need to be aware of if you want to become an agency nurse is that everything is always the agency nurse's fault. If you're an agency nurse, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The thing you need to understand is that when you're an agency nurse, you are walking into a facility as an outsider, and they are always going to blame the outsider before they blame themselves or one of their own. They have their cliques, they have their people to protect them. So if something goes undone or a mistake is made, it is highly likely that the people are going to attempt to blame it on you, the agency nurse. Now, how do we combat that? I think you already know the answer to this, but this is why it is absolutely crucial for you to be documenting everything. Don't go in the facilities getting comfortable because you think you're cool with the workers. You're not. Always make sure that you are doing the things that you need to be doing. Do your rounds when they need to be done. Give your meds when they need to be given. Document on everything. And if ever there's anything that makes you feel uncomfortable or that you feel needs to be discussed, please make sure that you are doing it via email or text message. Just make sure that there is a paper trail for everything. Another thing you want to be aware of is that sometimes you're not going to get the support or the help that you wish you could get. Now, if you're going on a travel or a local assignment in a hospital, a lot of the times you will get training before you are allowed to be put on the floor. If you are working in a long-term care facility, especially if you're working in a place where a lot of the nursing homes are owned by the same facility and pretty much have the same protocols, the same rules, and the same way of doing things, the training that you're going to get in these places is very minimal. You may get a day, 2, maybe 3 days of training at most. But if you're an OG nurse, let me know in the comments. I know you know this is true. A lot of the time, you may not necessarily get any training. Now, some nurses may be comfortable with this, especially if they are used to working for that company or in facilities owned by that company, because again, the only thing that really changes is the patients or the residents. Everything else pretty much stays the same. I know this was the case for me in a lot of different places that I've worked at. But if you're uncomfortable, please make sure that you're asking for help, whether it's the head nurse, whether it's the DOC or a director of nursing, like you guys call it in the States, whoever it is that you need to speak to, make sure that you're speaking to them. And if you're not getting the necessary support that you need from them, then make sure your agency is aware of this. Another thing you need to be aware of if you want to become an agency nurse is that you're not necessarily going to get the benefits that staff nurses get. So they may have insurance packages that cover things like glasses, dental. If you're in the States, I know for you guys it's a little bit different than from us here in Canada, but you guys understand what I'm saying. Most of the time, if you're a staff nurse, there are going to be some benefits. For me, I live in Canada, so we have free healthcare, and all the extra things like glasses, dental, things like that for me are cheaper for me to pay out of pocket than it is for me to pay into an insurance package for those things. I'd rather just pay it out of pocket because I save way more money. If you're in the US where there isn't free healthcare and maybe you have an illness that requires you to go to the doctor doctor frequently or your children, then that definitely may be something to consider. Now, there are insurances that you can pay into yourself, and this is what most agency nurses will do. They will pay into their own insurance plan and they will pay into their own pension. So these are definitely things that you can look into, but some people don't like the extra responsibility of having to go out and look for your own insurance and remember to pay into it. Some people just like the comfort of it just automatically coming out of their pay and them not having to think about it at all. So if you're one of those people, just understand that there may be some adjustments that you're gonna have to make. And I also want you to understand that it's not every agency that's going to work with you as an independent contractor. Although that is usually the case, some agencies hire as an employee, but you'd be getting a slightly smaller rate because the extra money will be put into some type of benefit. The benefit packages might not necessarily be as good as it would be if you were working for the government or in a hospital, but there are some options. So it's really about exploring those and making sure that you're communicating your needs with your agency to make sure that they can fulfill those needs for you. Along with that comes something that a lot of people tend to be worried about, and that is taxes. Now, I do have a video talking about agency rates and taxes, and I highly suggest that you guys check out that video. I'm gonna leave it somewhere up here, and that's just me sharing my own opinion based off of what I do for myself with my accountant. Please make sure that you are going to an accountant to validate this information and to make sure that the information that I shared applies to you and where you live. Now, again, some people like the fact that as a staff nurse or as an employee, their taxes automatically come out of their paychecks and they don't have to think about it. But if you're working as an independent contractor, you're going to have to understand that this is something that you're gonna have to do yourself. When you are getting paid, it's gonna be your responsibility to take some money out of that pay and set it aside for your taxes. Now, a lot of accountants are gonna suggest that you pay your taxes quarterly, meaning that you're going to be paying your taxes or a portion of your taxes every 3 months. And that's just so that you don't feel it as much as getting hit with that big invoice from the government or the CRA or IRS telling you that you owe this huge lump sum. And I've made the mistake, so I would strongly suggest that you listen to your accountant if they tell you to pay quarterly. But I also want you to understand that even if you are paying more taxes, you're still going to be making more money. So a lot of people tend to be scared to go into agency nursing because they feel like it doesn't make a difference. All the extra money that I make is going to get taxed. But that's not true, because as a contractor, you have business expenses. When you're an employee, you have no business expenses. You get your salary and that is it. As an independent contractor, things like phone, gas, uniforms, and a bunch of other things can be used as a deductible. And also, as a contractor, you're typically going to be taxed at a lower rate than an employee. You've got employees, independent contractors, and corporations, and all three categories have a completely different tax rate. Usually the employee tax rate will be way higher than the independent contractor's tax rate, at least in my experience. Therefore, I'm making more money, the percentage that I'm taxed is lower, and I have deductibles. So you still end up making more money at the end of the day. But like I said, speak to your accountant. This is definitely something that you need to be aware of, and it can get really easy to slip up because you see the money coming in fast, so you want to spend it fast and you don't put money aside. So make sure that you have some type of locked account where you have an automatic withdrawal going straight into that account, where it could be stacked there and forgotten about until tax time. And lastly, and I think this is a no-brainer, most people already know this, but I just want to elaborate on it a little bit more. You do not get the stability that staff nurses get. I get new nurses messaging me all the time. I'm talking a year of experience, 6 months of experience, and they want to go into travel nursing. Pump the brakes, get your experience before you get into this. I had 2 years of experience before I started working agency. And at that point, I had already done clinic. I had already done acute. I was working in med surg. I do have a vlog about that if you want to see what it's like being a med surg LPN. I will leave my whole nursing vlog playlist up here. If you're a CNA, I have a playlist for you as well. I'll leave it down below. But I worked in acute, I had worked in long-term care, and I had worked in clinic. So I felt a little bit more comfortable. If you are fresh out of school, I know a lot of agencies are really desperate for nurses. All they care about is getting their money, and so they will take new nurses with very little experience to go into these facilities. But just understand that at the end of the day, it is your license that is on the line. So if you only have a few months of nursing experience, it's highly likely that there are some skills that you've never gotten to practice. Even with me being a nurse for 5 years, there are a lot of skills that I have not practiced at all, and some that I haven't practiced in a really long time because I'm not working in an area that requires that skill. So I would highly suggest that you get your experience before you go into agency nursing, because you don't have that stability. If you're working in a hospital, it's very possible that they may want to float you from one place to the other. You may be on a med-surg unit today, you may be in the ER another day. You never know where you're going to be floated to, and it's the same thing with long-term care facilities. You may be floated within the facility, you may be getting used to a certain floor, and then all of a sudden you have to go on another floor where you don't know the residents at all, or the residents are heavier or sicker, so they need a lot more care, a lot more wound care, a lot more catheter care, a lot more blood draws. As an agency nurse, you are there to help them with their shortage. So you cannot necessarily expect to be locked onto one floor. Even if you have an agreement with a facility to be on a specific floor, trust and believe you better be ready to be floated to another floor, because they're always going to prioritize their staff, and there may be some mistakes with scheduling and stuff like that, and they may not necessarily need you on a certain day for the floor that you signed to be on. Might need you somewhere else. So you have to be ready for that. And so once again, keep this in mind as a risk, especially if you're a new nurse who just wants to get into agency nursing because of the hype, because of the luxury, because of the money. The money is great, but it's worth nothing if you go on an assignment and lose your license because you were trying to walk before you could crawl. Go ahead and let me know if there are any other points that I missed. Of course, there are a ton of other points that I could have mentioned, but the video is already long enough. Again, if you're a staff nurse looking to go towards agency nursing, let me know down below. And let me know if you've been a travel nurse. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with somebody who may be considering travel nursing. And make sure to check out these two videos right here. You might like them.